my name is Dr. David Compton. I'm an associate professor in the sociology department and director of African and African American studies here at Rollins. And it is a pleasure and a joy to be with you here tonight. Black History Month is a celebration of power, pride, and possibility. It reminds us that Black history is just history, woven into every part of our society. When we uplift these stories, we honor the journey, celebrate the joy, and fuel the future. Tonight we begin by honoring the visionary who made moments like this possible, the Dr. Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history. His commitment to truth, education, and cultural pride laid the foundation for everything we're celebrating this evening. So we now invite you to experience a brief look at the legacy of Dr. Woodson through our Carter G. Woodson timeline presentation, a powerful reflection on the origins of Black History Month and the milestones that shaped his vision. A truly inspiring presentation of the life of Dr. Woodson's legacy to his life in a way that reminds us why his work still matters so deeply today. I am a historian by training, so I'm going to talk just a little bit about the history of what was once called Negro History Week, and now we celebrate as Black History Month and Black Emphasis Month. So let's imagine you wake up to an alarm that never rings. Granville T. Woods' electrical innovations are no longer part of the grid that you take for granted. The current stutters and your coffee maker is dead. Shoes? No, the heels are crooked, the stitch is raw because Jan Ernst Metzelliger's lasting machine never revolutionized the industry. You rush to catch a bus whose schedules are a mess because the telegraph and its American systems do not coordinate a modern city. The elevator stalls, the stoplight is chaos, and you glimpse the point that Dr. Carter G. Woodson was trying to make a century ago. If you erase Black labor, Black creativity, and Black science from the record, you erase the modern morning itself, and then tell people that that emptiness is the truth. And that is precisely the illusion that Woodson set out to break. So let's take a step back to February of 1926 in his desk in Washington, D.C., to the week that started this movement. In February of 1926, Carter G. Woodson wrote that the first Negro History Week made a deep impression on the whole country because ministers, teachers, social workers, business leaders, and entire school systems answered his call. They rallied to the support of the movement and made it a national success. He had mailed a pamphlet that explained not only why to celebrate, but what history is for. In his words, the witness of the times, the torch of truth, the life of memory. A store of clarified experience that belongs in the hands of the people. Woodson made clear, it is not so much a Negro History Week as it is a history week. We should emphasize not Negro history, but the Negro in history. Woodson framed the week as both a celebration and an antidote. Celebration because the week invited school children and congregations to take pride in poets, inventors, workers, soldiers, and scholars. Antidote because, as he said, facts are mere dross of history unless we extract the truths they contain. And because textbooks that glorified one race taught both white and Black folks alike to believe the lie that Black people had never contributed anything to the progress of mankind. In 1927, Woodson reported that the week generated daily assemblies, recitations, and playlets, while libraries and parents demanded books and pictures of Black history. He insisted the goal was not Negro history set apart, but again, the Negro in history. In 1932, amid the George Washington bicentennial, he countered attempts to confine Black people to the role of slaves by publicizing patriots of African descent, Crispus Attucks, Peter Salem, Salem Poor, and thousands of Black soldiers who fought for the early republic. By the 10th year, he said the observance had undergone an evolution. becoming a stock-taking time with tests of knowledge, expanded adult education and radio programs, and adoption of readers that push towards Negro History Year. One of his companions, Charles Wesley, made the program's intellectual promise explicit. In 1936, he argued, history must be reconstructed so that Black people appear, quote, not only as the recipients of history and liberty, but as the winners of it, not only for themselves, but also for others. In that same bulletin, Woodson explained what an education Negro history must do. Quote, the Negro, whether in Africa or America, must be directed toward a serious examination of the fundamentals of education, religion, literature, and philosophy. They must be sufficiently enlightened to determine for themselves whether these forces have come into their lives to bless them or to bless their oppressor. They must develop the power of execution to deal with these matters, as do people of vision. The Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, he added, wanted Black folks to exercise foresight rather than hindsight. As movements of the 1960s and 70s across college campuses in the United States began to change curricula and representation, the Association for the Study of African American Life and History extended the observance of Negro History Week to a full month in 1976. A decade later, Congress adopted Public Law 99-244, whose whereas clauses acknowledged that in 1926, Woodson launched Negro History Week, and that this observance, quote, evolved into a month-long celebration in 1976. President Ronald Reagan, of all people, proclaimed the following, stating that the foremost purpose of Black History Month is to make all Americans aware of this struggle for freedom and equal opportunity, and to celebrate achievements in every field, from science and the arts to politics and religion. So Woodson designed Negro History Week as a celebration, yes, but also as a curricular intervention against the lie that Black folks had no history worth learning. He believed history could retrain our imaginations of who counts and who creates. And he believed schools, libraries, and newspapers had to carry the work into everyday life. In his words, let the light of history destroy the dividing prejudices of nationality and teach universal love without distinction of race, merit, or rank. Those purposes remain true today. What's changed is the scale of the audience. In Woodson's day, the week primarily targeted Black communities and armed them with the knowledge for self-respect and self-direction so they could be people of vision building forward. But today, Black History Month, as it still does that, also confronts the whole nation with a demand that is not a request to be added to American history as if it were on a separate shelf. It's a critique of the myth-making, the myth that American democracy was always pure, rather than something hammered out amid enslavement and objectification of an entire people, the myth that liberty was automatic, rather than something that Black Americans won for themselves and again for others. So when you tell the story of Woodson's week becoming a month, return to Wesley's phrasing. We reconstruct history so that Black people appear not only as liberty's recipients, but as its winners. We reconstruct it so young people can see themselves as heirs to builders and thinkers, not as props to someone else's story. And we reconstruct it to remind the nation that Black history is not a plea for validation. We don't need that. It's evidence that the world's old lies about us, told to valorize itself, have always been false. In this project of reconstruction, we honor the courage of Ida B. Wells, the Memphis newspaper editor who launched an anti-lynching crusade after a mob destroyed her press and murdered her friends. We honor the brilliance of Alexander Miles, whose 1887 US patent for automatic elevator doors revolutionized building safety and made the modern city possible. We honor the vision of Fred Hampton, who organized Chicago's original Rainbow Coalition, uniting Black folks, Puerto Ricans, and white working class communities, and at the same time, declaring solidarity with all oppressed people, including women, gay, and lesbian folks. We honor the boundless compassion of Bayard Rustin, the openly gay Quaker organizer who taught nonviolence, advised Dr. King, and directed the 1963 March on Washington. We honor the imagination of Toni Morrison, Our first Black woman Nobel laureate in literature whose novels transformed what American literature was and what it could do. We honor the color and design of Louise Malou Jones, the painter educator who fused African mass, Parisian training, and Howard's classrooms into a lifetime of art. We honor the exploration of Mae Jemison, the physician engineer and the first African-American woman in space in 1992. We honor the music of Duke Ellington, the composer band leader whose jazz beyond category earned him a posthumous Pulitzer Special Citation for a life's work that rescored American music. We honor the interfaith courage of Howard Thurman, the theologian of Jesus and the Disinherited, who helped shape a nonviolent movement and founded one of the first interracial, interfaith churches in the nation. This is why we keep the month. In a world that often tries to steal the credit or the story of the very morning itself, Black history stands as a protest and a promise that we have created, built, invented, and loved in a world that has tried and failed to stop us, and that we will continue to do that work together. Thank you so much.